So as we saw in the forest, there is sheet composting. The leaves are falling, slowly decomposing. That's fungal, bacterial, macroorganisms. And that takes years for it to go, but that is a healthy, balanced system. Here in our fields, we are trying to grow crops that we are feeding our community with. And so that is nutrients leaving the farm. So we need to be very aware of how to cycle nutrients back in. So over the years, we've done a bunch of different composting, but with this NRCS grant, we have been able to improve our composting systems and also explore more of what's going on in the compost system, exploring what biologically is happening in there. So here we have an almost finished pile. This is animal bedding and as you can see, some crop residue that have been built into a hot compost pile. So this pile was nice and large, and over time it's been cooking down, and the microorganisms are heating it up and decomposing. This pile right now is at about, it's just shy of 100 degrees. Just a couple weeks ago, it was 160 degrees, and I keep turning it. And now that the temperature is not rising much more, I know that it's almost finished. This heat is all heat from biological life in the soil, in the compost. So the microorganisms are chewing it up, so you need to have the right carbon and nitrogen, air and water ratio. If any of those four things are out of balance, you won't get a good hot compost. So we've been looking at that and also testing for biological life in the compost. Like I said, this is a hot compost. Right off the bat, this is mostly bacterial decomposition. This pile behind us was last year's hot compost pile that we have repiled up and let sit and basically let it have other organisms start working on it. So bacteria is like the simple sugars. They can break things down, really get active on there. But some of the harder things to break down are not, that's not done by the bacteria, it's done by fungus and other organisms. So that's what we're trying to study here, is what life do we find in this hot compost pile and what life do we find in this second year pile, if you will. So this having time to sit, you do notice there's some weeds on the top. We do weed them off, but as it sits, the material, it smells different. It's nice and earthy. And in fact, you can see perhaps right here by my thumbnail, there is a worm egg right in there. So in the hot compost pile, it's too hot for the worms. They will not get into the middle of the pile. But after letting this pile sit for a year, we have other organisms, hopefully fungal bodies as well, starting to break down the harder things to break down in this pile. So when we're adding to the field, we want to think about having diversity. Diversity in everything we do. Diversity in the crops that you plant, the varieties of the crops you plant, the way we build the soil. So when you're building a compost pile, adding in as many different things as possible. Lots of crop residue. We're trying to recycle those nutrients. Again, that's the hot compost. That's one style. Then we have the slower second year pile. That's another aspect of diversity. We're using hopefully fungal entities as well as bacterial entities. So this got us thinking about how can we look at other parts of composting. So I have two other scenarios up here that we've been working on. So let's go over and take a look at them. We've been thinking about what are the different resources we have around and how can we make that part of the nutrient cycling of the farm. So we have animals and we buy hay in, and sometimes the hay gets wet or is of poor quality. And so we have made what is called a bioreactor here. And this is just a cage that we have soaked some hay bales in and fluffed them up and put them into this pile. When we first built it, there was a tube in the middle that we pulled out, so there is air, because remember, we want nutrients, carbon, nitrogen, air, and water for this decomposition. This was built last year. It was filled up, and it took 3 bales to fill this whole thing. Over the summer, I kept adding. The result of 11 bales of hay being put into this cage over the summer of 2024, and decomposing and decomposing. And here at the end of 2025, you could see that this is 11 bales of hay that have started to decompose. If I get my hand in there, you can still see the constituents of this hay, but you also can see that it's breaking down. And there, you might not be able to see it on camera, but sometimes you find little organisms in there. We can also see some evidence of mycorrhizae in here. So this is becoming a little more fungal breakdown, slow breakdown. Here is where I failed. This is too dry, it's not going to break down. So in the middle, it's nice and wet, and we have decomposition happening. Now, when I read about this bioreactor, they talk about not letting it freeze. Well, I'm sorry, that's a problem we have here in Alaska. It is going to freeze, so it kind of goes fairly dormant in the winter. So it's going to take a couple years to break down, but this is going to be some great material eventually. And if you're in a remote site and you just have grass cuttings, you just have a carbon, if you will, mostly carbon-rich source, this is something that you can do to build. I think it's a very important point to think about the time frame of building soils. You can't build a good soil overnight and expect it to last, right? We're looking at a different time scale here. It's not a geologic time scale, it's a soil time scale. But if we can take time to build our soils, those soils will also maintain for years to come. So we're not looking for quick fixes, we're looking for building a healthy, strong soil. And it takes some time and it takes some effort. But like I was saying, if we can build a healthy soil, we can have healthy plants, we have less pest problems, and we get greater production per square foot. So it's really worth the time and effort to investigate your soils and build them up. So this is the bioreactor, slow and steady decomposition. We'll have to come back and see what it looks like in a couple years, because it will take some time. And this is just a leaf litter pile. So every year I rake up leaves, I fill up this basket, and you can see this is this year's leaves. There's some birch seeds in there. So, oh, there's a worm working away already in there. So this is this year's surface, and this is 3 years of accumulation. So the way you work this pile is you're always adding to the top, and you harvest from the bottom. And this is your leaf mulch. And look at this. You can see it's breaking down nicely. It's by no means fully decomposed, but there are mycorrhizae in here. There are things breaking it down. So this is quite different than this. Okay, again, it's a slow process. But if you are building your soils, this is fantastic for putting into, say, your potato field. When you plant your potatoes, you often make a furrow and you plant the mother potato. And we use potatoes, or used when we were first starting the farm, use that as a breaker crop. So when we had a brand new area that we wanted, a brand new terrace that we wanted to plant, we started by making a furrow, planting the potatoes, and then taking leaf litter and other organism and other organic matter on top. and that broke down. And then when you hill the potatoes, this is all incorporated in the soil. And by the fall, when you're digging the potatoes, this is all broken down and added to your soil. So again, that diversity of using different methods of composting, so you bring in bacterial, fungal, and macroorganisms.